How's everybody doing? Hold on one second.
Well, that was a fun panel.
It's much more fun to be down here with you guys than it is sitting at a table. That's boring. You see how much cable I've got. See how close I can get to you. Closer. How's everybody today? You having a good day so far? You guys are the hardcore heroes of Canada. That's right, I've renamed the country. But no, Sunday's always, slower day, so it's always nice to see people here for this last day, bringing it on home, sticking to the very, very end. But this is my favorite hour because I love to get the opportunity to talk with you guys about things, anything, things that you're interested in, work that I've done, work that I've not done, anything you want to talk about. So, before we get started, let me tell you a couple of things that I want to make sure I tell you because you wouldn't know, and my panel's the only chance to really let you guys know about stuff, right? A lot of you wrote me in the weeks leading up to the convention and asked me if I was going to be bringing any music CDs. Some of you may or may not know that I write and produce music professionally, and I've been doing it twice as long as I've been voice acting. So you do the math. That's a long time. And I also, so I have music CDs at the table, but I also have something that I would be remiss not to tell you about. A few years back, I did a live concert at a big convention in the States, and they shot the concert, and we made a really, really nice concert DVD, live concert DVD. Great music from Full Metal, Teen Angel, or in high school, Dragon Ball Z. But there's something else on the DVD that you guys might want to know about. Back when we were recording Full Metal Alchemist, I was having so much fun. I loved that show so much that I wanted to cosplay.
Please.
Yeah. And I started thinking, okay, how could a grown man like me, a very tall man like myself, ever cosplay as Edward Elric? So I made up a little story whereby a grown man starts turning into an anime character. And then I started thinking, I don't think I've ever seen any voice actors cosplay as their characters. So I contacted a bunch of the other voice actors from Full Metal Alchemist, and I said, hey, do you guys want to come do something fun with me? And they're like, yes! So we all got together one weekend in Houston, Texas, and we shot something called Full Metal Fantasy.
Yes!
It is a live-action parody with the voice actors cosplaying as their characters.
Oh my God!
And in case you're interested, I'll give you a little taste of me as Edward Elric, the Full Metal Alchemist. That was it, right there. But the fun thing about this is that this live-action parody has never been available anywhere. The only time I ever showed it was at a convention, maybe, in a panel, or if I did a concert. If I did a live concert, I would play Full Metal Fantasy, and then I would come out and I would sit at a piano and I would perform the Brothers theme live with piano and vocal. And so when I was putting this DVD together, a lot of people were like, hey, you should put Full Metal Fantasy on the concert DVD. So it's on there. So if that sounds like something you guys would get a kick out of, great music, great concert, wonderful audience, Dolby 5.1 mix. I mean, it's a nice concert. But it also contains Full Metal Fantasy. I have those at the table as well. And as soon as we're done here, I'll head back to the autograph table and would love for you to come and see me if you haven't already. Before we get into the questions, I know some of you are probably going to ask, what are you working on right now? So let me go ahead and answer that. I'm working on a lot of stuff right now. I'm working on another season of, after 15 years, Full Metal Panic. Oh my gosh, do you remember Full Metal Panic, anybody? Good mech show with Kurt Weber. And it's really, you know, it's neat how you can play a character that, and the show will go away for 15 years, and then it'll come back for another season, and the characters look exactly the same. Even though their voice actors don't. But it's really fun to play that character again after so many years. And there's another season we just finished of Free, the swimming anime, the Speedo bathing suit anime. And actually there's a Free movie, I think there are a couple of movies. And then season 3 we just finished. I just finished a show called Bungo Stray Dogs. Fantastic show, love it, love it, love it. Did a show called Twin Star Exorcist. Did a show called Overlord. And I'm working on a new one, and I think I will be shot if I tell you what it is, but I'm so excited. I'll give you this hint, and this is the only thing I can tell you. This show has been around a while, and it's a really popular show, and I'm so excited to play a major role in the new season. So, I don't know if that helps you.
Sorry.
No. It doesn't help you at all, does it?
Can we guess?
Can you guess? Sure, go ahead, Winry. Guess.
Oran High School season 2.
I wish it was Oran High School. Oh my gosh. I want more Oran. But no. Yes.
What?
Yes. Yes. You're the only one with your hand up. Yes, you. What is it? What are you saying? No, it's not related to Persona, but I love Junpei in Persona. Great, great, great game. And speaking of things I'm working on, any Dragon Ball Z fans here? Finally. I've played that big, handsome brute for 15 years, 3 movies, 13 video games, and all the time I've been praying that Broly would come into the Prime Universe and kick some Goku butt, and Vegeta butt, and Piccolo and Frieza and anybody else. Line them up! But I'm so very, very excited that there's a Broly movie coming out, if you didn't know it, and jazzed to be doing more of that. There are a few other things that I'm working on. Oh, does anybody know what a complete nerd I am for Star Trek?
Yes.
That is my thing. Whatever your thing is, Star Trek was my thing. I was obsessed with that show. When I was a little kid, oh my gosh. I ate, slept, and breathed the original Star Trek. Back before y'all were born, pretty much. Well, you and me, right? Me and this guy, he's like, not for me, buddy. I was there watching Captain Kirk. But yeah, oh my gosh. I would lock myself in my room for hours every day and build phasers and make little prop communicators and build models and draw pictures, and I loved Star Trek. So, when you go home tonight, I want you to go to a website, post-haste, www.StarTrekContinues.com. I created a web series that picks up right where the original Star Trek was canceled. Many of you may not even know that. Back in the late 60s, There were 3 seasons of Star Trek. And you remember at the very beginning, what did Captain Kirk used to say at the beginning of every episode? These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. It's 5-year mission. To explore, strange new worlds. Right? 5-year mission. Well, they were canceled. There was no 5-year mission. And the next time you saw Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy was 10 years later in Star Trek The Motion Picture. But by then, Kirk wasn't even captain anymore. He had taken a desk job, and he was an admiral at Starfleet, and Spock had gone back to Vulcan, and McCoy had quit the service altogether. Everybody had gone their own separate ways. So about 5 years ago, ironically, 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to pay tribute to the original series of Star Trek. I wanted to say thank you to that show that inspired me so much when I was a little boy. A lot of the things that I do professionally today, I did because I tried them for the first time because of Star Trek. Acting? One could dare say that I am an actor today because I loved the original Star Trek and I went to school and auditioned for school plays because I loved Star Trek and I wanted to do what they were doing. Or building props, or making film. My college degree is in film production. Why did I ever want to do that? Because of Star Trek. I would round the kids in the neighborhood up, and my parents had a little 8mm movie camera. This was long before there were video cameras, y'all. And they had an 8mm movie camera, and I would round the kids in the neighborhood up, and I would make Star Trek episodes where I'd make you wear my uniforms that I made, and we would make little episodes. I would take a little model of the Enterprise, and I would hang it in front of a black poster board, so it looked like it was in space, and then I would run past it with the camera to make it look like the ship was going shh. I would build little sets, cardboard sets, with Christmas lights in them, out in the woods behind the apartment building my mom and I lived in. I was obsessed. So, 5 years ago, I decided that I was going to make an episode of Star Trek the way I remembered it. And I rented a building, and I got a bunch of guys together, and we rebuilt the entire soundstage from the original series of Star Trek. I mean, spot on. Like, perfect. And then I rounded up a bunch of friends of mine, actors, other voice actor friends, celebrity friends that I've met at conventions like this, camera people, lighting people, makeup people, wardrobe people, sound people, and we made an episode that looked exactly like a new story of the original series of Star Trek, and I got to fulfill my childhood dream of playing Captain Kirk. So after we made the first one, which I paid for, we released it and everybody really enjoyed it. How many of you have seen any of our episodes? Thank you. Thank you. Clearly not enough of you. Thank you. So after we made the first one, we put it on the internet, and people really enjoyed it, and so we launched a crowdfunding campaign, a Kickstarter, or as we called it, Kirkstarter. He's just waiting to be done, right? I mean, it's so obvious, Kirkstarter. And we made 11 full-length, award-winning episodes. Every one better than the last. A lot of actors and people that you would know. Anybody watch Mythbusters? Yeah. Grant Imahara from Mythbusters plays Sulu. We've had celebrity guests, we've had other voice actors that are in the show. It's a beautiful, beautiful tribute to Star Trek. And you'll feel like you're watching episodes that were locked in a vault somewhere for 50 years. It's perfect. It's beautiful, and it's free. Not swim club free, but free to watch. Because I didn't make it to make money. I made it to pay tribute to Star Trek, right? So go home and watch it. It's all free, and you know what? Even if you're not a Star Trek fan, I bet your parents are, or your uncle, or your school teacher, or your neighbors. Let them know. StarTrekContinues.com. 11 full-length episodes, and it perfectly fills the gap between the cancellation of the show and it ends right where the motion picture begins. So it's a beautiful filler for that 10 years that nothing happened. So, in addition to what I'm working on, voice acting wise, I'm currently recording an audiobook. Now, all of my voice actor friends have told me, hey Vic, if anybody ever asks you to do an audiobook, run. Run the other way. Because audiobooks are hard. You'd be surprised, you think you're a good reader. You do, right? Everybody thinks they read just fine. Until somebody puts a $1,000 microphone in front of your face and then goes, now read this. Without stopping, put it in emotion and inflection into it. Don't stumble, don't mispronounce anything, don't pause at all. And suddenly the pressure is on. Oh yeah, and little noises that some people's mouths make clicks and pops when they talk. Yeah, it's not easy at all. And they don't pay really well. So most voice actors, friends of mine, are like, don't do an audiobook. So I made a note to self. No audiobooks, got it. I will not do audiobooks. So a publishing company contacts me and says, Vic, we'd like you to record an audiobook for a book called These Are the Voyages, and it's about Star Trek. I said to God, Father, why have you forsaken me? God knew the only subject on the planet that I would be interested enough in to do an audiobook would be Star Trek. The original Star Trek. So you guys, I have to tell you about it because I'm actually very excited. See, they're excited. A few years ago, a man wrote a book called These Are the Voyages, and he actually wrote 3 volumes, one for each season of the original series. And let me tell you why it's so cool. The books are a very comprehensive, detailed accounting of the making of the episodes. So like, they interview Gene Roddenberry and Jerry Finnerman, who was the director of photography, and Bill Tice, who made all the costumes, and the actors that were in the show, and the writers who wrote the shows, and the network people that they had to work with to get certain things on the air. And it's all about the challenges and the hurdles and the setbacks and the roadblocks that they encountered in trying to get this amazing show that now we know as like iconic, arguably the most iconic TV show in history. 55 years later, we're still, everybody knows Star Trek, everybody knows Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, and there are new TV shows, new movies, but this is what started it all. These are the people that started. Can I tell you something?
Yes!
Is this mine? Okay. I love learning about the origin of things that we just take for granted as part of culture. How many of everybody on the planet Earth knows what beam me up means, right?
Yeah.
Beam me up. The transporter, right? The transporter in Star Trek, where they'd stand on the platform, zzz, and they would materialize on the planet, right? Beaming down, beaming up. Okay, you ready for this? You're gonna love this. Do you know how the creators of Star Trek came up with that idea? You're not allowed to tell. My panel. I love this so much, you guys. Have you ever heard the phrase, necessity is the mother of invention?
Yep.
That you come up with an idea and it is born out of your necessity to figure out a problem. This iconic thing beaming down, the transporter in Star Trek. Do you know why they even came up with that idea? Because the people that were handling the budget and the money to make the episodes were looking at the episodes and they're going, we can't afford for the ship to land somewhere every week. It would cost too much money for this giant ship to land on a planet every week. We couldn't afford the special effects. And because they couldn't afford that, somebody came up with the idea of the transporter. I'm sorry, that blows my mind. That this thing that is now part of our world culture, you know what I mean? Some guy made up in a room somewhere 55 years ago because they didn't have enough money to make the ship land. I love that. Exactly. Exactly. I love it. So this book is filled with that kind of amazing stuff. The communicators, the phasers, the uniforms, and these things. Spock, arguably maybe one of the most famous TV aliens ever, right?
Daleks.
How they came up with that character. These guys were not drawing on anything. They were making it all up brand new. And now it's part of our culture. I love it, and I want you to check it out. If that sounds at all interesting to you, I'm recording an audio book, and I'm bringing in a bunch of actors to play the roles of the different characters. So that when Gene Roddenberry speaks, instead of me just doing a Gene Roddenberry impression, you actually hear someone else's voice. And very quickly you feel like you're listening to the creator of Star Trek, in his own words, tell you about these particular things. Or the director of photography. Or Leonard Nimoy. Guess who's voicing Leonard Nimoy? Because you know he passed away. Adam Nimoy, his son, is reading his father's excerpts. Isn't that amazing? There's a woman named Dorothy Fontana. D.C. Fontana. Now you may not know her, but I'll bet you've seen her work. She was the story editor on Star Trek 55 years ago. She wrote 5 or 6 of their most popular episodes. She came to my house and recorded her own excerpts from the book in her own voice. It's amazing. You guys know who Ron Howard is? The director? He has a brother named Clint Howard, who shows up in all of Ron's movies. Well, when Clint was 7 years old, he was in an episode of Star Trek. And people ask him about it all the time. Clint Howard came over to my house and recorded his own excerpts where he was quoted in the book about his involvement in the episode that he was in. It's going to be a lot of fun to listen to. These Are the Voyages is the name of the book. It'll probably be out beginning of next year, end of this year, beginning of next year. So be looking for it, okay? Who's got a question? Yes, my dear Pikachu.
First of all, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for coming.
It's very nice to have you come up here. I love it. So I asked your dear love, your wife, Paul Capricorn.
I'm sorry, that's all the time we have. Hold on one second. I'm going to find out. Hold on. I'm going to try to turn. Is there a soundboard here? Better? That's better. Now I don't have to, yay. That's much better. See, now I don't have to talk so loud. Okay, where were we? No. Tell me about your boyfriend.
I asked him this question, it's kind of a lame, obvious question, but who is your favorite Pokemon?
You asked Todd that? What'd he say?
Squirtle.
What?
Squirtle.
Squirtle? You mean from SpongeBob SquarePants?
That's a good word.
Isn't Squirtle? Isn't he from SpongeBob?
Squidward.
Oh, that's Squidward. I need a drink. Who's my favorite Pokemon? Yeah, well, did he play that character? Okay. Oh, he didn't? Oh, I'm so sorry. I play a character in Pokemon named Keldeo. And so I'm gonna say he's my favorite. I love it. I've done several characters in Pokemon, but I played one in one of the movies, played the main character in one of the movies, and I loved him. But Pikachu is pretty awesome. I really like Squirtle too. I mean Squidward. I should have said that. Question? Yes. Come hither.
Your last name is hard to pronounce.
No, it's not. It's really not. It just looks intimidating because those crazy Italians, they throw all these extra letters in there that you're not supposed to say. You know?
Okay, so what is your favorite and least favorite mispronunciations of your last name?
Well, I blocked out the least favorite ones.
Fair enough.
You know, I got so embarrassed even when I was in grade school. As long ago as like grade school. You know, the first day of class, right? Where the teacher is reading off the list and she's reading your name for the first time. You know, after that she'll get it right, but it's first day of school. 3rd grade, 4th grade, right? She doesn't know how to say her name. So she gets to my name, and after a few years of it being botched so badly, I would literally, like, interrupt the teacher before she got to my name. Like, you know, she'd say, Chase Masterson, here. Michael Martin,
Here.
Victor, and I go, Mignogna, here. But yeah, it's you know how to spell lasagna, don't you? You don't say lasagna, or bologna, or bring me one of them filet mignons. It's lasagna. The GN makes a nya sound. But they're the actor, Joe Mantegna. In fact, you know what? Go over to Lou Ferrigno's table and tell him that he's pronouncing his name wrong. It's Ferrigno. I've teased him about that for years. So my Italian name is Vittorio Giuseppe Mignogna. Vic Mignogna. Yes, sir. What's the weirdest or most awkward line? Oh, there's so many. So many. Wow. Oh my gosh. You know, I feel stupid because every time I'm recording something and it strikes me as weird, I think to myself, make a note of this, because this is really funny, and you should tell the fans this next time, and then I forget it. I mean, that's the problem with doing it as long as I've done it. if I only did like one show, right, or 2 or 3 shows, I would have a very good memory of the recording of those shows. But after 300, I know there are some really, really funny things. There was a show that I did years ago, very, very early on, called Goemon, Legend of the Mystical Ninja. It used to be a video game, and they made an anime. Do you know about it, some of you? Okay, so they made an anime, and I was cast to play Goemon. Goemon had an uncle, Uncle Monashiri, and his uncle was kind of a crazy mad scientist who would make all of these weird inventions that Goemon would use to help combat the bad guy. You know, some kind of a new concoction or a tool or a weapon. So I still remember to this day that there was an episode where Uncle Monashiri had made a weapon out of a hand mixer. You know, you crank the handle and the little mixer mixes up the batter, right? Manual mixer, hand mixer. So at the key moment in the episode where Goemon was getting ready to battle the bad guy, he literally said, "Feel the wrath of my hand mixer!" And that struck me as really weird. So I literally had a baseball cap made that had embroidered around it, "Feel the wrath of my hand mixer." Question? Yes, sir. Will we be doing any more Star Trek Continues? First of all, I love you for asking. Thank you. My goal when I started Star Trek Continues was to finish the original series of Star Trek. Something no one had ever done. I mean, do you realize how iconic that is? This great TV show just didn't have an ending. It just got canceled. And then, you know, when you saw the first movie, all these things had changed. So my goal was always to finish the original series of Star Trek. To create a story, craft a story that would explain the Enterprise finally returning to Earth and completing its 5-year mission and going into the dry dock that the ship was in at the beginning of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and explain with a story why Captain Kirk ever gave up his ship and took a desk job. Anybody that knows Captain Kirk knows how much he loves his ship. Why would he ever take a promotion and give up being the captain of the Enterprise? Whatever it is, it's a dang good story. There's a story to be told there. Mr. Spock. When Star Trek: The Motion Picture started, Mr. Spock was on Vulcan. He had gone back to his home planet to pursue a mental discipline called the Kulinar. And it was supposed to be the purging of all remaining emotion. Now, why the heck would he do that? What happened to Mr. Spock that made him say to himself, I gotta deal with this. I've got still some emotion that I can't handle, and I need to go back home, and I need to do this discipline and purge all of this emotion. Well, whatever it is, I'll bet it's a dang good story. So that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to finish the original series and explain through a good story why everybody made the choices they made. It was never my intention to do it until I got too old to play Captain Kirk. It was my intention to finish the series. And even though we wanted to make maybe 13, maybe 14 or 15, some things took place in the fan film world, and I'm not going to go into it, but someone raised a bunch of money to make a Star Trek fan film, and they didn't make the film, but they spent the money, if you know what I mean. They paid themselves a salary, which you're not allowed to do, and they flew around the world in first class, promoting a movie that they never made. They ate fancy meals, they blew the money that the fans gave them to make this Star Trek fan film. And when that happened, CBS, the people that own the license to Star Trek, basically said, okay, that's enough. We've let these fan films do their thing for years because they're just loving Star Trek and paying tribute to Star Trek, but not this. This is no good. This is not acceptable. Somebody to raise over $1 million under the name Star Trek and then to blow the money and not do what they promised. CBS sued that person, and then they passed. They issued a set of guidelines for Star Trek fan films. And the guidelines basically said they can't be more than 15 minutes long. Well, we're already screwed. Right? Our episodes are full hour-long episodes. You can't use SAG professional actors. We're screwed. Again, we're all SAG actors. You can't raise more than a certain amount. Screwed again. You can't, a lot of things. We were already in violation, is my point. But here's the good news. CBS contacted me, and they could have said, shut it down, you're done, now, stop it, or we sue you. But that's not what they said. What they said was, how quickly can you wrap it up? Thank you, CBS. Right? They said, we know that you wanted to finish, we know that you had a finite ending in mind. How quickly can you do it? And we kicked into gear. For the first 4 years, we made 2 episodes a year. Remember, we're all volunteering our time. Nobody's being paid. The last year, we made 4. Like, we worked hard to get as much done as quick as we could. So, the bad news is, there will not be any more. At least no foreseeable future. But the good news is, we did what we set out to do. We finished the 5-year mission of the Enterprise. And that's iconic. It's historic. So you guys check it out, okay? Hi. Oh, ask me a host club question. Oh, come closer, Commodore. Come closer. Yes, you beautiful poor person.
Since you know a bit about Tamaki.
Just a bit. A very beautiful bit.
So, who do you think would be a suitable partner for him in the host club without Haruhi? Like, if Haruhi was not.
Oh, no.
Well, all of the other members are boys. And Tamaki loves the ladies. I don't know. Who do you think?
Oh, God.
Don't say Kyoya. Don't say Kyoya.
It's
I told you not to say that! Haruhi! No one has my heart but Haruhi. Can I tell you something funny about Haruhi and Tamaki? So, Caitlin Glass voiced Haruhi, and she directed the show. And she would always tease me because in the show, Haruhi and Tamaki, right? And they have this thing, and of course, if you've read the manga, you know what happens at the end of that.
Yep.
And whenever we would do a panel at a convention together, me and Caitlin, and somebody would say, like, who's your favorite host club member? And I would go, oh, Haruhi. And Caitlin would go, I like Kyoya. And I'm like, but Caitlin, we hook up. You can't like Kyoya. Well, I do. Question? Yes, my dear.
What is your favorite or most amazing experience at a Comic-Con or Fanexpo?
You know what? Again, I have had too many. You know what? It's Sunday. It's church day, right? I am not going to get too religious on you, but I'm going to tell you my heart. I hope you don't mind me sharing my heart. Do you mind if I share my heart with you? I have been so blessed to get to do what I do. I didn't plan on it. I didn't expect it. And I thank God every day that I get to do what I do. He has blessed me more than I ever deserved. I love what I get to do. And as it relates to your question, when I started voice acting, I was just doing these shows, right? I was doing these characters and going home. And for the first few years, I'm like, who even watches this? Like, I guess they put them out on DVD. Thank you. And they, people buy them. And then they started showing up on television more. But it was just kind of a fun thing, you know? But then something really strange started happening. People started showing up at conventions and leaning over the table in tears and telling me how much Edward Elric meant to them. And how they were at such a low point in their lives. Perhaps they've been in an accident. Perhaps they've been very ill. Perhaps they lost a parent. Perhaps they lost a brother. Perhaps their family broke up. Any number of things. But they found this show at just this moment, and it got them through. Now you guys, up until that point, it never occurred to me that I had the privilege to be a part of people's lives in a significant way. And what's really weird is, Star Trek did that for me. You guys, I discovered Star Trek at exactly the moment in my life that my parents divorced. And my dad moved out, and my mom and I moved into a little dinky apartment, and we had a 19-inch black and white television. We didn't even have enough money to buy a frickin' table. The television sat on the floor in the living room. And I would lay on the floor, and one day, when I was 10 years old, I found this show called Star Trek. And there was this man. And he was brave, and he loved his friends, and went on adventures, right? And Captain Kirk became a father figure to me. It is beyond surreal to me that I have had the opportunity, the privilege, to be a part of animated shows, whether it's Oron, or Full Metal, Ruby. I didn't even mention Ruby, still working on Ruby right? Oh yeah, Uncle Crow. Drunk Uncle Crow, of course. I never imagined that I would have the opportunity to be a part of people's lives in a significant way. I have had so many people who've come up to me, I mean people with prosthetic limbs, who would say, I found this show. I was in a car accident and I lost my arm. And I thought my life was over, and somebody told me about this show and it meant everything to me. I would have never imagined that I would have had some small part in that. And you know what, you guys? Voice actors don't get paid a lot of money. Just trust me when I tell you that. All these celebrities over here, like on TV, on camera, movie, they make boatloads of money. Voice actors, anime voice actors do not make much money at all. But listen to my words. I would not trade what I do for anything. I am so grateful and so blessed to have been some part of people's lives in this way. Money comes and goes. But to have an impact on somebody's life in a significant way that will stick with them for their entire lives and might even alter their decisions. What they do for a job, what they study in school, who they marry, how they raise their kids. All of these things have connection to what you learn and what impacts you and moves you when you're younger and you go through difficult times. people come up to me nowadays, even now, occasionally, somebody will come up and go, I want to tell you something. I think you'll understand when I say this. You are my William Shatner. And I just sob. Because when I used to go to those, you guys, I went to conventions when I was a kid. I went to Star Trek conventions, dressed in my little uniform that I'd made, and met Leonard Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. McCoy, and George Takei, and all of those people. And it never occurred to little scrawny Vic Mignogna, 35, 40, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, that I might one day be a part of something that would move people and encourage them in anywhere near the same way that Star Trek encouraged me. So let me bring it home to your question. What are some really significant things that have happened in a convention? Way too many to list. But that's the commonality they all have, is I am consistently humbled and honored that I had the chance to be a part of animated shows that meant something to people. Made them laugh when they needed to laugh. You know, moved them or connected with them when they really needed something in their lives to just push them through. I am